Welcome to the Extraordinary Family Life Podcast. We're your hosts, Greg and Rachel Denning.
I'm laughing at you because did we decide what we're talking about?
Nope, we haven't decided. we got some questions in, and then we're having some wonderful,
We're having an
challenging
amazing obstacles.
Yes,
at
yes,
this
the
moment.
Odyssey. I seriously felt like Odysseus. I just could not get home. And we were joking with the boys. I'm like, okay, it may take us 10 days, and we should just be grateful it didn't take us 10 years.
Oh my God. Right.
So I guess we'll go with that. So the boys and I, we flew. Kimball wanted to do a project. He wants to purchase old
He
land.
wants to start a business, essentially.
Well, yeah, so it's a
this
bit.
is
Yeah,
what
you're right.
he's interested in doing as a
business. And
or a
it's
career,
awesome. So he's taking the older style Land Rover Defenders.
which are popular in Europe and around the world.
They're
not as popular in the U.S. So
just because they weren't allowed into the U.S. But these things are amazing. They're military vehicles, overland vehicles, safari vehicles.
Let me give a little bit of context for people who don't know anything about cars. This is the vehicle, if you ever watch a movie that has a tough man going to a foreign country, driving off-road to do something bad, they're driving a Defender.
They're always driving a Defender.
Like, that's what these are.
Yep. They are the classic tough guy cars.
Off-road.
They're just awesome. And they started making them in the 60s and really didn't change them. They just stayed that way until 2015. Then the Land Rover turned into a soccer mom SUV. So you can take these things and all the parts are still available and you can completely remodel them. So that's what Kimball, our son, he's 19, that's what he wants to do. So we flew to the Canary Islands.
Let me also add to this. Again, we have to provide this context for people who don't understand. You can buy old Defenders for fairly inexpensive, 15,000 euros, 18,000 euros.
Yep.
And while we said they're not popular in the United States, there is actually a market for them.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're not allowed in the United States, newer ones, but if they're older than 25 years old, they're allowed to be imported as a classic vehicle. Yep. And in that case, you can import them, but they also deck them out, and they sell for
anywhere from 120,000 to 250,000 euros.
Yes.
Completely
kind of
redone.
Big deal.
Yeah,
it's not like you're buying
amazing.
it for 15,000 and selling it for 20 or something.
Right.
It's not that.
No, because you fix them up and you import them, and so it's and they're rare. They're very rare in the U.S. And so yes, they have a decent price tag, and it's worth every penny.
And
they're amazing.
It's a niche market, but there's a market there with a big price tag.
It is awesome.
So
I drive one, just for context here. I drive one here in Portugal. We had when we lived in Germany and Europe before. Just absolutely love these things. They're amazing. So Kimball and I went to buy one, and we flew to the Canary Islands to buy one, and the guy was pretty deceptive, and it was just covered in rust. So we walked away, and he was so disappointed to walk away.
Okay, but we're giving all this context, we're explaining this story because we want to teach a very, very, very important principle that we have personally experienced
so many times, painfully,
that is critical to the achievement of big goals and dreams.
Yep.
Like it's literally a pattern. It's literally a principle. It's a thing that happens. And so that's what we want to talk about, because we want to explain that this isn't just happenstance, random. Like, this is a pattern we have seen again and again and again and again over the past almost 20 years of pursuing big dreams and goals. And we're not just talking about small things. We're talking about big dreams and goals. Yep. This is the pattern we've seen. So we want to explain, we also want to give the context of like everything that's happened. Even you jumped to flying to the Canary Islands. Like, it was a little bit of a process to even get to that point, because first of all, it's a unique situation. You're trying to buy a vehicle
as a foreigner
in
a foreign land,
in a foreign country. But then we're living in Portugal. You're trying to buy it in Spain because Portugal has horrible import taxes on vehicles, which we just heard they actually changed, which is great. But
because of a Supreme Court case, which is awesome. Somebody was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
How can you charge double taxes, you monsters?
But we are yet to benefit from that so far. So you're trying to buy a vehicle in Spain because they're cheaper. And so you had to go through the whole process, of course, getting a Spanish tax ID number. Like, multiple things happened. And
Yeah,
then
it took. We
and then
wanted
he
it to
couldn't
take
get
days. It took
insurance
weeks. Yeah.
because he's 19 and they only insure people that are over 30. I don't know, weird things, right? And so, anyways, to get to the point where and then in the meantime, he'd found a vehicle he wanted, but someone else sold it because he couldn't buy it and couldn't get insurance.
Then I had to get a tax ID number.
Yeah, then you had to get the tax ID number. So we're already into this odyssey with multiple things.
Yep.
Then finally, you've got the tax ID number. You've got the insurance. You find the vehicle you want. It's in the Canary Islands, which if nobody knows, because many people don't, that's off the coast of Morocco. It belongs to Spain, but it's off the coast of Morocco.
It's essentially in Africa.
Yeah.
It's way down there.
Except islands, way off the coast of Africa.
Yeah.
So you fly there with a layover in Madrid for 12 hours, and you got to go see our son, who's serving as a missionary there,
Yep.
which that was fun.
It's awesome.
So you went there, and you get to the Canary Islands, and the guy was deceitful because he'd sent you videos,
covered
he'd sent
with
you
rust.
photos, you've
So
done
bad.
all the due diligence possible, but it was covered with rust.
Yep.
Okay, so now
So
you're in
then,
the Canary
and Kimball's
Islands.
like, let's just take it. I'm like, no, man, like this thing is completely rusted out.
This
It
is
would be
bad.
so bad. He's like, I know, but I love it. Let's take it. And he's so anxious to get
he just
going.
wants to get it
Yeah.
and get moving forward on his project here,
Yeah.
which is understandable. But
So then we walk away. We had to.
okay, you walk away, but you're on the Canary Islands.
Actually, didn't walk
And
very far.
The plan, right, because it's an island. And the plan had been you would fly back to our home in Portugal to keep working, and he was going to take a 3-day ferry
Yep.
from the Canary Islands
To Spain.
Spain, and then drive to our house
So
in
it was
Portugal.
going to be an awesome adventure,
Yes.
and then it ended that day, the first day. So we had 5. I had 5 more days before my flight there.
Yeah.
But we're like, we're not just gonna walk around this island for 5
yeah.
days. Like, let's go. So we called Rachel, got some tickets, flew to Sevilla,
Well, because you found
Another one.
another Defender
Yeah.
that you're like, okay, we'll go
way
by
up in
this
the
one.
mountains
In
and,
Sevilla.
And this guy, he's like, yeah, it's great. I'm like, okay, we'll come get it. He's like, great. I'm like, great, we're buying flights. He's like, fantastic.
So
We
I buy you flights
Yeah.
from the Canary Islands to Sevilla, Spain, and rent you a car. You land that night, and the next morning you get up and you're like, "Okay, where do we meet you?"
We went out. We just wanted to go sleep in the woods, and we ended up sleeping in some olive orchard, and
Well,
it
plus-
got cold.
Plus, because this is part of Kimball's business, he's
Yeah.
essentially financing it,
Right.
and so that was also cheaper to
Yep.
just have you guys.
Exactly. So
Camping.
I'm trying to help him feel and experience the realities of business,
Right.
the cost of business,
Mm-hmm.
the hardship of business, every little last cent. It's like, I didn't anticipate that. Mm-hmm. Although I have spent a lot of money helping him.
Right, but
which
he's
is awesome. He's
Yeah.
learning. He's feeling it.
paying for as much as he can.
So we get up in the morning. We're like, okay, we're ready to buy it. He's like, well, I can't meet you today.
This is the guy in
Yeah,
Sevilla.
and see, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we bought tickets, rented a car so we could buy this thing. He's like, well, I can't. I'm like, why can't you? He's like, well, I got to work. I'm like, okay, we'll come over after work. He's like, I can't. I'm like, how about tomorrow morning? I can't. He just tell me, I can't meet you. I can't sell it. I'm like, bro, we flew in here. So it was so frustrating.
And it
We
was just
take-
weird about it. It was
it
just
was
like,
so
that was
weird.
it.
He's like,
Sorry, I
can't.
can't meet you.
After we're like, hey, we're buying plane tickets. Anyways, so Kimball was pretty frustrated. I was frustrated. We get on a
Yeah.
bus. We bus home. And like,
Yeah, so then you're like, well, we don't know what else to do. So you got bus tickets, got home later that night, and now he's like, now what?
Yeah.
Back to ground zero.
We start looking. There were no other options. No. Well, there was a couple that were really overpriced. And the gentleman was like, no, this is the market. This is the market. Whatever. And I'm like, well, let's look. Let's look in Germany. So we start looking in Germany, and we find one on the border. We found a bunch of great ones, actually. We find one on the border of Poland. And so we reach out to this guy. Turns out this awesome Irish guy living, because he had a Polish girlfriend living across the border. And so we fly into Berlin, take a train over to Poland.
So, okay, so you got home from Sevilla maybe like Thursday or Friday, something like that. Monday, he finds this, and
Yeah.
you guys are just like, oh my gosh, this
Let's
is a
go.
great vehicle. Let's go get it. So he buys flights that night, 3 a.m. Tuesday morning. You fly to Berlin and took a train, right?
And we took Atlas with us.
Yeah. And then
That
now
was
took our
awesome.
son because it was also his birthday.
A little land holiday. Turned out to be not so much of a holiday.
Obstacle.
Yeah.
So you take the train to Poland and meet this guy.
Yep.
The vehicle's great. He's driven it to Norway and done all these things,
Yep.
did all these. I don't even know still all the why this is such a great vehicle. I guess it has upgrades and cool things and whatever. I don't even know.
love hearing you talk about it. It has things and stuff.
It's so great. And you're going to understand why in a minute, why I'm saying this, because in my mind, after the rest of the Odyssey that we haven't yet explained, I'm like, why did you buy this thing? Like, what? How was this such a great vehicle? Okay. So that's my little womanly insert there.
Yep.
Maybe Greg will explain why this is
Well,
such
I have
a
to
great
explain because from your point of view, it's like, that was
This was
not
a lemon.
good idea. So we get there and we're like, this is great. He's great. He's taking care of it. It's a great rig. Like, we'll take it. And so we do our wire transfer, and it said, should be there in 2 hours. And we're like, fantastic.
No, originally it said 47 minutes.
Oh, yeah. So
we use an app we've used many, many times. It's called Wise. I use it all the time. It's great for making international transfers. I mean, I use it all the time.
All the time. We paid so...
We bought your Defender
I bought mine
with it.
Yeah, exactly. So
it says 47 minutes for this wire transfer.
okay,
We're
but
like,
here's
fantastic,
this
great.
is kind of a funny little part of the story. When it says what's it for, Rachel put Defender. Now,
It's a Defender. They're buying a Defender.
if you're sending many thousands of euros to
Poland.
Poland for a Defender, it's going to set off some red flags.
It got
We
flagged.
didn't realize that it got flagged, and major...
Stop, pause.
You have to turn your alarms. Okay, so does it look like it's recording now? Exit out? Okay,
So
perfect. We're good. Okay, just stop.
So it just was
Yeah.
saying it did stop
Yep.
recording because
Okay, you feel like I need to what?
you need to tighten this thing so it doesn't.
So lift it up so it's at your chin, and then just tighten it, babe. So somebody gets scared
essentially
that
it got
it's
flagged.
for a Defender.
Okay, but we didn't know that. So here's the challenge.
Yeah, that was irritating. We're waiting.
So
And
the
waiting.
way it worked is it was a wire transfer, but because U.S. banks don't have e-bonds and all these different things, I had to manually wire the money from the U.S. bank to the company, who then sends the money to the seller. Part of the problem was I requested that wire at 9 in the morning U.S. time, but they didn't send it until, I think, 9 at night U.S. time, which was the middle of the night for us. So in the meantime,
he was
you
like,
guys,
"Hey, I don't feel comfortable till my money's in the account." I'm
Right.
like, "Oh, I understand. I mean, we have confirmation it's being sent." He's like, "Nah, I don't feel comfortable." Like, well, we were gonna actually drive back to Berlin, do all the paperwork, and hit the road, go have an adventure with the boys. And he's like, "Nah, I don't feel comfortable." So we went back and slept in his barn.
Right. So in the meantime,
which was awesome and
he
cold.
takes you back to his house, and you slept in a 150-year-old Polish barn.
It was awesome, actually. Okay, I got to back up for a second. A little side story, because it was in the middle of nowhere. Like we drove to the middle of nowhere, and then we drove to his middle of nowhere, and we went through these old Polish villages, and they said they're all like that. Like there's just forest everywhere, and you come in these old villages, and when we drove in, I told the boys, I'm like, guys, we just stepped back in time. Like, it was so awesome. They're all just this old brick barns and houses. It was so beautiful and so quaint and picturesque, and I don't even know I don't have the words. It was awesome. Like, you just felt like you just did a time lapse. It was so cool. It was so cool to be out there. So that was pretty special. So we watched the sunset, did a little fishing.
Fishing?
Yeah, he had a private pond. So and the boys, I've never taken my boys fishing.
They're so
Yeesh.
deprived.
They're like, he's like, "Why don't you cast it out?" And Kimmel's like, "I've never fished before. I don't even know what to do." So, I taught him how to cast, and we just sat there on the water's edge and talked about all things life. It was awesome. And then we slept in the barn. Get up in the morning, and then we finally get an alert. It says, "Oh, it's been flagged. What is a Defender?"
So I get up in the morning. Actually, I didn't sleep well because I was worried about it. And I get up, and I look, and it still hasn't gone through. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, it was supposed to take 47 minutes, and here we are, almost 24 hours later. And Yeah, so then finally I get this I got a message from my bank saying, yeah, we sent the money, but told me it was like 9 p.m. their time. So I'm like, okay, that's part of the delay. But then now we know Wise has the money, but they're not sending it. And they're saying, oh, we have to check a few more things. So I think there was another thing about me being the joint holder on the account. But
and then there
the
was like a
major flag
$6
was-
difference. And we're like, well, are you kidding me? Stop. And then it was what is a Defender?
Yes.
I was
So
like,
then that
it's a
was-
Land Rover. And by this point, I was like, you guys, I thought the whole world knew what a Land Rover is. Are you kidding me? and so I wrote him an email. I sent him a text message. I literally called and talked to a human 4 separate times. And they're like, we just need to know what a Defender is. I will send you pictures. You can Google it. Are you kidding me? And it went on and on and on. It took a long time. And then he called them 3 times. You were sending messages,
sent
emailing.
messages. I gave
like,
lots of negative feedback.
You guys are killing me. So finally it goes through. We go to...
Wait. Finally, because at this point they're saying we have to look at more documents. It's going to take another 4 days.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 4 days?
Of us
4
sitting
more
in
days of
Poland?
you sitting there at this guy's. I'm like, because we already sent the money. What
Yeah.
are you going to do? Just leave?
Right.
And so then he gets the money and you don't have a vehicle. So I'm just like, this is horrible. What is going to happen here? So finally, though, I don't know. I don't even know what happened.
He opened his phone
'Cause
and
you're
he
still
got
on the
a
phone.
message saying it's being sent. It's
Yeah,
sending.
I'm
He's
receiving
like,
it.
He's like, oh. He's like, it's cool. So I got a message on my end that it's coming.
Yes.
So he's like,
Right.
I'm okay with that. You guys can roll.
Yeah. So, but even the person you were talking to didn't even know that happened.
Well, no, that's different. So then we take off, and he reaches out and says, "Hey, is this coming?" And they tell him, "No, it's not coming. It's frozen because we don't know."
Even though he got that notification.
Yeah, what the Defender is. And so he calls me. He's like, "Guys, you got to come back. Like, I'm not getting the money now. I don't have my car. Like, I'm not comfortable with
you're
this."
in Berlin by now.
We're close to Berlin. We're on our way. And so I get on the phone again. I messaged like 3 or 4 different people. Then I get on the phone again, and I'm talking to this senior level whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, we got to find out what a Defender is. We're just waiting. I'm like, just who needs to know? I'll send a picture. And I was on the phone with her for like 30 minutes. And then finally, whatever happened, it cleared. And he just sends me a quick message, say, "Hi, got it. Good luck. Have a great trip." We're like, oh, man.
While you were on the phone with her, and she
Finally.
Yeah.
So then we have these little pockets of reprieve.
And I think, again, we're telling this whole story because it's very illustrative of the process. And I think that because you and I have gone through this process many times, we're able to recognize patterns.
Yep.
In fact, I was telling Greg about this. We were talking about it. Because I was reading this book on meditation, and one of the things she was pointing out is that as you grow and develop, as your brain grows and develops, that you gain these abilities to do certain things. And one of them that she mentioned was that you gain the ability to recognize patterns. And I think that that's very, very insightful, because I know that a lot of people, and I know I didn't have that ability. Like, it's something that we've gained through experiences like this. We're able to...
Awareness, too, and paying attention, because we went through it again and again and again without ever noticing a pattern. And then now we've worked with thousands of people across 5 continents. Mm-hmm. I see the patterns all the time. You see the patterns all the time. But the people who are in it, they don't see the pattern.
Right. And we'll
it
be
just
like,
keeps
oh,
happening.
look, this is happening. And
and I literally have to point it out. I'm like, no, this happened before. And they're like, really? And I'm like, I look back at my records. I'm like, yeah, it was right here and right here and right here. And they're like, oh, I didn't even notice that.
Right, exactly.
Like, and it's not to throw anybody under the bus. It's like, unless you have this awareness, unless you're looking for patterns, it's hard to notice there are patterns.
Yeah, exactly. And so because we have gone through a process like this multiple times, and I'm sure people can relate, as we're telling a story like this, they're probably like, yeah, something like that happened to me. It was this whole saga of things that happened. And we're pointing it out, we're sharing the details, but we're also bringing awareness, hopefully, to you to realize it's a pattern. Like, it's a thing that happens, and it happens for a reason. My belief is it happens for a reason. It's not just random. It's not just accidental. It's this pattern that
Some of you are
happens.
thinking, yeah, the reason is incompetence, you knuckleheads.
Right.
And often it is. Often these troubles, these obstacles are because of ignorance, right? Ignorance is painful and costly. Man, you think it's expensive and difficult to gain education? Try ignorance. Oh man, it is so costly and so painful. And sometimes it's a lack of skill. And again, this is across the board. This is with marriage, parenting, business,
Anything,
life,
any
leadership.
goal you're trying to pursue like this.
Any goal, any target. When you struggle, when you reach the current limit of your skill sets. So it could be a lack of knowledge, a lack of skills. It could be just ignorance. It could be just poor decision making.
And I think that this is an important point to emphasize here, because you're saying when you reach the limit of your current skill set. And inevitably, that's essentially what you're doing whenever you're pursuing a new big goal or dream. Because if it was already in your current skill set, you would already have that.
That's not a big goal.
You'd have that. You would already have achieved that goal or dream.
Right, exactly. Because fundamentally,
it's big because it's outside of your current abilities.
Exactly. It's just above where you currently are.
Exactly.
That's what makes a target or a goal or an objective big or dumb is the acronym I like to use.
It's in the unknowns. It's in the space of the unknown.
Well, yes.
If you're thinking about the hero's journey, you're going from the known world and what you do know and your current skills into the unknown, which is also beyond your comfort zone. It's beyond your current skill level.
And that could even be the unknown in that it's just a little bit higher or farther or faster or bigger than you've done before.
Yeah.
So like, well, I've done a sprint triathlon and now I'm going to do an Olympic triathlon. And that's unknown because it's just a little longer. Or it could be something completely different. Like, I've never tried this before. I'm going to try it. So it's into the unknown, but it's also, it has to stretch you. It's just above where you're already able to do things.
Right.
It's beyond that.
Now, I think the interesting thing with this scenario here in this specific story, because I think there's also a principle here, is it's not like anything we've just described is nothing we've done before. Like, we've traveled, we've gone places, we've bought things, we've bought Defenders, we've transferred money. Like, all of that we've done before. It's not like this is a new skill set. It's kind of in some ways new to Kimball himself.
It's brand new to him.
Meaning
So
he hasn't personally done these things.
The entire process for him is brand new.
Right.
It's all new. It's all first time. And I thought, as a dad, as a mentor, I'll help him through a lot of these things. So he doesn't end up buying a lemon, even in spite of what Rachel thinks. So he doesn't, just get ripped off or, doesn't become disastrous.
Which is the value of having a mentor. Like, that's right. That's the point.
It's to prevent disaster. So the irony, I'm like, I've done this so many times. I know exactly what to do. I know how to do this. Like, everything looks good. And for whatever reason,
it's still happening.
Yes. Obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. I'm like, why do I feel like Odysseus? I just want to get back home. So I guess we better continue the story.
Yes, and that's why I'm bringing it up, though. Back to this as another principle, because I believe that the pattern here in this case, because I've seen it again and again, is that it's simply a part of pursuing a big goal and dream.
I agreed.
Like, and in this case, especially for Kimball, I think it's part of what he has to learn. If he's really sincere about creating this dream lifestyle of his, which is, doing what he wants to do here. He loves fixing up cars.
He's going to restore, we talked about yesterday, really talked through it. It was awesome. So he's going to restore and import Land Rover Defenders and old Land Cruisers. He's going to do both of them.
Right. So inevitably, that process is going to involve these types of frustrations.
And insane amounts of problem solving.
Yes,
exactly. And the best way to become a problem solver
is to face problems.
And that is painful and frustrating.
Well, yes,
and
it
annoying.
is. And it just really makes me think about the phrase you love to say all the time, that God and the universe are conspiring in your favor. Now, and despite how much we hate it, these things are that conspiring.
So it feels like they're conspiring against us. And so we've been wrestling with this and talking about it on this trip, because we wholeheartedly believe that God and His universe are conspiring in our favor. And those of you who are listening, I believe that for you. God and His universe are conspiring for you.
And we believe that because we have seen it. Because every time we face something like this and we go through all these struggles and hardships and trials and frustrations, it's always worked out for our best good.
Yes, and yes, and
That sounds a little
sometimes though,
hesitant.
well, here's the hesitancy, because when God steps in and smooths things over like so well, and I'm sitting there thinking that shouldn't have been that easy, like that was amazing. That's when I feel like, yes, God is working for me. He's clearing the way.
Of course.
This is the best, and I'm like walking on cloud nine, like God is in my corner. Let's go, right? That's when it's easy.
Yeah.
To remember that he's in your corner, and like purchasing our resort was like, I put in
Right.
this crazy low offer with crazy terms, only benefiting us. And the guy responded like an hour and said, "Yep, I'll take it." I'm like, what
Wow.
just happened?
Right.
That's amazing. Now, then we got here and we worked our tails off and earned it the other way. And there was lots of problems to solve, of course, and remodeling and fixing up and figuring things out in a foreign land. But it's when it's challenging that you're like, wait, where are you? Like, why aren't you like making this easier? And it felt, specifically on this trip, it felt like the universe was intentionally making it harder than it should have been.
Well, okay, as we're going to get into the story more, yes, because that's not the end of the story, of course. It definitely seemed like that. And even while we're recording this, it still hasn't been resolved.
Yeah.
Because you got home last night at midnight after renting a car because the vehicle broke down again, the fourth time?
Something like that.
The fourth time, and is currently stuck in Valencia, Spain.
Yep.
And here you are, you came home because you couldn't fix it.
I came
and you
home
didn't have the
just because I
tools.
wanted to make sure I could come home. I literally felt like Odysseus. I was like, I just need to go home
But you're leaving tonight or tomorrow
to go back.
to go back and
So
resolve.
the Odyssey continues.
Yes, to resolve the Odyssey. So we're making this
We're
podcast.
in the midst of-
I feel, and this is an interesting point too, because I feel like the only reason we have confidence to even make a podcast like this, and I'm sitting here knowing this will be resolved, knowing it will be resolved and will work for our good and for Kimball's good. Like, I know that. I don't have a doubt in my mind. But the only reason I have that certainty, despite the fact that and that doesn't mean I'm not going to be frustrated or annoyed or irritated by whatever happens in the next few days. I still have the certainty because we've been through it before.
Yep.
Because we know the pattern. Like, we've seen it. And so we know, even though it's so irritating and annoying, that ultimately, and I guess I have to give that caveat, as long as we don't give up, which we've learned not to, we're not going to give up. We just keep pushing until we find the answers, that it works for your good. And I think that that's a part of the pattern. That's a part of the test. That's a part of this hero's journey. Like, how bad do you really want this thing?
And I think there's two major things there. Is number one, it comes in as an obstacle, as a test. Like, are you willing to push through this? Mm-hmm. Are you willing to overcome? Are you going to quit? And I feel like it's almost like this. What is it? It's a test of sorts, an exam. It's part of the price tag. Like, are you going to quit? And honestly, most people do. Well, okay, I'll try starting a business, or I'll try doing things. I'll try homeschooling. I'll try something different. And if it doesn't go smoothly, then they're like, I'm out.
Well, okay.
I'm out. I tried that once. It sucked.
And not only if it doesn't go smoothly, but especially if things go wrong that you feel like this shouldn't even be going wrong. Like we're going to tell in a minute, even mechanics saying, I've never seen this happen before.
Right.
Like, this is so strange. It's not even just that it's going wrong. It seems like it's going extra wrong.
Right.
Like, more wrong than it should, statistically should go wrong.
Exactly. It's a special kind of wrong.
Exactly.
You're like, this, it almost like is defying the normal laws.
Of wrongness.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, there's a little bit of wrong, like maybe a flat tire, but are you kidding me?
Right.
So one is, are you going to keep going or are you going to quit?
And we have learned through experience, we keep going.
Right. Well, luckily we learned that the hard way. We had no choice.
Right.
Like, we got to a couple of spots where like, we have no out. Like, even though we want to turn back, like, we can't, because we burned our ships. We burned our bridges. Like, we're going we crossed the Rubicon, and you're like, oh crap, I can't turn back now. Like,
Right. Conquer or perish.
We're either going to figure this out or we're toast. We're just going to like hold hands and die with our kids. So that was luckily we were such bold risk takers when we were young.
With ignorance and
And bliss.
inexperience.
And we just were like, no, we're going to figure this out. Which now is a life model that I've embraced from this ancient quote. It says, I will either find a way or I will make one. Mm-hmm. So that's how we live. I'll either find a way or I'll make one, right? And again, you have to make sure you're on the right path. If you're trying to bark up the wrong tree, you got your ladder against the wrong wall, and you're like, I will persist. You're like, dude, no, you're going down the wrong path.
And the caveat here as well, because you're right, people can approach that completely the wrong way that's detrimental and dangerous.
Yep.
But the caveat is we do our research beforehand.
Yep.
Like we do all the research, we examine all the pros and cons, but then once we realize from a logical viewpoint that this is a good idea.
Even sometimes a spiritual one.
Yeah, definitely. And heart, there's passion there as well. But when you look at it from all those ways and then you decide and you're like, yes, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to pursue. And in this case, same with Kimball. Like he's had multiple experiences that have led him to like, yeah, this is the kind of path I want to pursue. This is the direction I want to go. Once you've made that decision, meaning you've actually analyzed all of the pros and cons and facts and figures and all of that, that's the point when we're like, okay, we've made the decision. Now we're either going to find a way or make one, despite the obstacles and the extra obstacles that we're now facing.
Yep. And
that's the difference.
That's a good lead into my second point. So the first point was, are you going to quit? Or are you going to keep persisting? The second point is, the most important part of a journey is who you become. It's what you learn. It's who you are on the other side of those obstacles or on the other side of the achievement. It's not getting to the top of the peak or the summit. It's who you become in the training and in the approach.
Exactly.
And it's not, oh, I achieved this great goal. It's like who you are now. It's the knowledge you gain, the skills you gain, the problem solving.
Yeah, your ability to deal with frustration and to solve problems and to remain sane.
And that's, yes, and how to handle disappointment and frustration and setbacks that were totally unexpected. Just how to get blindsided and get back up physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, all of it.
Right.
And it's frustrating. It's tough. Like when you don't know something and it hits you upside the head and you had different expectations, you're like, oh man, it's so disturbing.
Yes.
It is so disturbing. But it's in those moments of pain and uncertainty and frustration that if you stay open enough, you can learn so much. And I've been watching that process, especially with Kimball, but myself included. Like we have learned so much on these. We're 7 days in to our Odyssey.
No, 7 days since Poland.
Yes,
this
exactly.
Doesn't count.
It doesn't count the other. So we're a couple weeks in on that.
This doesn't count the Canary Islands.
So we're 7 days in trying to get home from Poland. We're still not home. I mean, I'm home because of a rental car, but this Odyssey and going. But because of it, we've met people we never would have met. I mean, cool people, really cool people who are very helpful and just doing cool things with their lives, pursuing their dreams. We got to bump into them, like this little garage outside of Switzerland. Like Kimball walked in and was like, this is my dream, right? He got exposed to his dream by seeing somebody else.
Right.
Their garage was it was this old building from who knows when. And it was completely full of Defenders and this epic Unimog.
Wow.
Like, and it was had all the cranes and all the tools and everything to set up. We were just like he got a glimpse of a vision of what could be. But we never would have gotten there if it wasn't trouble after trouble after trouble.
And that's fascinating to me because from our own experiences, I know that it's things like that where we were forced into situations or circumstances where we were exposed to something that planted a seed that later led to, helping us to achieve other dreams. Even now with the World School Family Resort that we have here, I have all sorts of plans and visions and dreams and goals for it. And they come from all of the places we've been and all the places we've seen and all of the places we've stayed around the world. And a lot of times that has come, like we've had those experiences and been to all these different places because of the trials and difficulties and challenges that we've gone through that has led us around to
unique places we never would have stopped.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, there's something to be said there, and there's a little bit of being forced.
Sometimes that's the only way we end up in certain places is
Right.
because we're forced there
Right.
through
But this
the
trip was like
conspiring
this.
of the universe.
Yeah. We ended up in places, it wasn't on a route. We never would have stopped. We didn't plan any of that. But we gained a lot. And we learned so much. He needs to learn everything inside and out about this dream, and specifically about these vehicles, about how they work, what breaks down, he needs to know. He needs to eventually know every bolt.
And that comes through
And man,
painful
alive,
experience.
wow, like he was like, couldn't it have happened when we got home? And at home, I start taking it apart instead of freezing our butts off in the cold rain in Germany, and then in Switzerland, and then in Spain, and each time it happened on the highway, and 2 of the times it was at night in the dark.
Of course.
And it's like, why? And all 3 times it was in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't near.
course.
It wasn't near a city. Like, yeah, you keep saying, of course. I'm like, why? Couldn't this have happened near a shop or a garage or a tool store? And we flew in, so we didn't bring any tools or anything. Like, couldn't this have happened during the day? I mean, we've been driving for hours and hours and hours. Why? It would get dark and then it would happen. So, just a quick story. So we're cruising along. It's nighttime in Germany. And
I mean, it broke down, and it took you 3 or 4 days to leave Germany.
The drive shaft just literally snaps off. Gone. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So then we slept in a gas station trying to figure things out. It was so bizarre. So we rig it together miraculously. We learned all about drive shafts and U-joints and
the fact that you can actually drive
and then
a
we're like,
Defender
yeah,
without a drive shaft.
you can put it in.
That's strange.
You have locking differentials and you can drive without the drive shaft. I'm like, okay, this is amazing.
You would have never learned that.
Never would have known that. And now you're like, oh, if something breaks down here, you just release the drive shaft and you can keep going. But then we get it fixed. We're going, oh, okay, we're good. We get into Switzerland. The second one, like,
Well,
there
first
was
of all,
rear,
I didn't even know there were 2 drive shafts.
and then the front one just literally snaps. The metal snaps off. Was this even possible? So we ended up at that cool shop on a Saturday when it was closed. We met this cool guy. He called a friend, and he's like, you know what? I'll send my son over there. He'll help you guys out. And he did. And he threw it up on a stand, threw him in there, and only charged us for the parts, didn't charge us labor. It was amazing.
He didn't have the parts, so he had to take the
Yeah.
parts
He's
off.
like, I'll just pull them off these
his
other
other
rigs, and I'll
Defenders.
just throw them on yours because we don't have the parts. I'm like, dude, you are the man. Like, just so helpful and so awesome. I invited him to come stay, so he's going to come stay here. Just a cool guy. So then, he's like, I've been doing this since it was his dad's shop. So he's like, I've been doing this since I was born. I've never heard of that. Both of them coming off. I'm like, what in the world? So then,
Okay, and this, just to reiterate back to the womanly view, this is when I'm saying, didn't you buy a lemon?
Yeah.
Like what? What is wrong with this vehicle? What's going on here? And yet, I don't know if you can explain it, but you still think
so
it's a good.
Oh yeah, well here's the cool thing about these vehicles, and that's why it's such a beautiful dream. And I've loved these things for years and years and years.
As long as I can remember.
Yeah, for we had one a decade ago. We lived in Germany. I flew in from Morocco.
But
and
I
bought
remember
one.
when we lived in Costa Rica, way before we lived in.
I was driving them because Hernan
You were.
had one.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, so we go drive. The guy where we lived, he had one, and we would just go drive all over
Yes.
Costa Rica. I'm like, I love these things. So yeah, that was long before we moved to. That was the first time we were in Costa Rica. So this was a long, long time ago. I just love these
This
things.
was like 2007.
So, but what's cool is every single part comes off. They're designed to be completely taken apart and completely put back together in remote
Like
areas.
Legos
If you have to, yeah, it's Lego. But they're the most amazing things. They go anywhere, do anything. We took it in December. We took our whole family into Morocco, and we drove out into the Sahara. And I'm like, I didn't even have to put it. I didn't have locked differentials or anything.
You
Like
didn't even have to drive in 4-wheel drive.
yeah,
You
we
just-
were just like all through the sand.
sand.
I mean, deep sand. All these other rigs are getting stuck, and I'm just like, just driving. It was amazing. These things are so incredible. And what you can do is literally from bumper to bumper, you can replace everything. And now they have upgrades for everything. And now customization. Like you can customize every single piece. And that's why some of them are literally selling for $250,000 for a vehicle that was built in 1991 or whatever, right? So this one's a 99. But you go through it. So you're
And he
sitting there
bought it-
saying,
he
isn't
bought
this
that.
a lemon? Isn't this a broken down vehicle? It's like what you do is you just go through and you just replace every single part, and you literally have a brand new vehicle.
Right.
And so the frame is amazing. It's been
So
protected and restored.
everything you do have is still worth
Oh,
the value
phenomenal.
you paid.
And we got a
you can't
great
get it
deal. We got a great deal on it. Yeah, so these pieces are breaking. So I'm like, he and I were talking, I was like, well, we were planning on, working through this, but I guess now we're doing it on the side of the road instead of at home in a shop. So you're just going through and replacing it all. And that's what we're doing. So it's still a fantastic deal. It's still a great rig. And we're just having to do it along the way instead of at home.
Right.
And then the last
With the
thing
tools.
is whatever weird little thing happened for some reason.
So you got the second drive shaft fix
In Switzerland.
And
And
I didn't even know about it
we
because I
went
think
to
Greg stopped telling me.
Liechtenstein.
I heard
Yeah,
you
we
went
got
to
to go. So it's a
Liechtenstein.
new country for us. And it was beautiful. It was so, so beautiful.
But because I didn't know you broke down again in Switzerland, you just sent me a text after it was fixed saying miracle number 37.
Yeah.
We're on the road again. And I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't even know if you broke down. So you're back on the road again. You made it through France,
So
no problem.
We
Like,
drove
France is
all
blessed.
we drove all across Switzerland. So we went straight. I got to back up here because I'm going to share another little principle. Total side note. We went to Munich and we wanted to buy a knife for Atlas's birthday.
Okay, because within all of this, in fact, the day the money went through finally was
his
Atlas's birthday.
Yeah. And so
His
we were actually
14th
heading
birthday.
to they have these awesome indoor water parks and pools and spas
In
and
Germany,
saunas
they
in
have the
Germany.
best
They're all
water
over.
parks.
They're so fun. So I'm like, let's do
indoor.
that for his birthday. He's like, yeah. And it broke down. And we ended up spending the night at a gas station.
So his
okay,
birthday you spent at a gas
let me-
station fixing
Yes.
the
And
Defender.
let me give context here, too. So you're like, what? You guys are a bunch of hillbilly gold digger hippies. What are you doing? This whole trip, the plan was we brought hammocks and sleeping pads. It was on purpose. We're going to do an adventure. Like, we're going out.
Oh,
We were
boys' road
purposely,
trip,
we were
camping.
purposely going to rough it. We're not going from hotel to resort to hotel. Like, we just said, hey, we're going to rough it the whole time. And we like roughing it. We do. The boys, Leah does too. So in our family, except for Rachel, everybody likes roughing
I'm
it.
like, give me a bed.
Yeah, and a nice, Rachel's like the most luxury hotel in
I
town.
love luxury.
Like that one we stayed in Warsaw. It was
Yes.
like,
That
wow.
was nice.
Okay, so we're purposely roughing it. And what was awesome is this was set up as an overlanding rig. It has a bed in back. So we modified it a little bit so all three of us could sleep inside. And it was really comfortable. Like, we were super comfortable. So, we slept in the gas station. We were sleeping in the rig. But guess what? We were in the parking lot, which I realized across the 5 countries we drove through, almost every major gas station along the highways and everywhere, they're just packed with campers and overlanders.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we were one of 20 or 50 vehicles sleeping in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so we realized, like, this is amazing. We're rolling with all the other overlanders because most of them go in either small RVs or Sprinter vans or
converted.
any kind of van that are converted or Defenders or whatever. And so they sleep in there. So we did that, and we went the next morning. We went to that water park. It was incredible, super amazing.
And got ideas for our saunas that we're going to make here.
Oh my goodness, yes! Because they went to this sauna. So this thing was divided into a massive pool area with slides and a wave pool, all indoor. It was and heated. It was wonderful. And then this entire other section, I've never seen this before. An entire section, huge, it was just sauna, with cold plunges and saunas.
Well, they kind of
And
had
they had,
something
10
like that
saunas.
in Lithuania.
Yeah, that was very. This was different though because it was like sectioned off, only adults, no clothes. So I was like, oh, we're gonna put my swimsuit on. He's like, kind like
Nine?
no, kind. I think he's a kind. That's like I think that's like no go. Like you don't wear your swimsuits. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, I wanted to go find the hottest sauna and just sweat. I just needed to sweat. I hadn't been in a sauna. And it was cold, you guys. We went like shorts and T-shirts, and it was cold in Germany. It was snowing in Switzerland and Liechtenstein. We're rolling through middle of September. It was snowing. We were so cold. So anyways, I go in this sauna, and classic Germans. The Germans don't like clothes much in certain areas. The whole place was just completely nude. And it was like 11 o'clock in the morning, so it was only elderly people. It was like, okay, this is what you look like when you're 70. Anyways, but yeah, we got cool ideas for the saunas and for the cold plunges that we're going to do here. But my whole point was on this tangent.
Yeah, what is the point?
Was this awesome gentleman we met in Munich. And I looked for a knife shop, and there was one in the kind of southeast side of München. I like Munich a lot, and I love Lucerne now. Like these old European cities are so amazing and romantic, and they're so cool. So we go to this little knife shop, and it was a tiny little shop, and there was an old guy back there. And we went in, and the three of us start geeking out, and he just kind of starts to sparkle, and he's like, oh, okay.
Of course.
And I'm like, and in this small shop, his shop was maybe as big as my office, but he had the best stuff,
Which is like 10
the
by...
best stuff. Yeah, it's like 12 by 15 or something like that. We had stopped at a place in Berlin.
It was disappointing.
Similar. It was super disappointing. I went in, I'm like, this is lame. It was a small thing. I'm like, he has nothing here that we like. So then we go down there. Everything. I could have bought the whole shop. Like everything in there was.
I thought you guys did buy the whole shop.
It was amazing. And I was like, oh, I'm interested in this. And he pulls it out. He's like, oh, but what about this? And I'm like, yes, I'll take it. And as soon as he saw, like, I was ready to get some stuff. And he's like, what about this? And I'm like, I'll take that. And I'll take this. I'll take that. And Ass grabbed his, and Kimball grabbed his. And again, we love knives. We love knives in our family. Knives and swords and bows and arrows and cool things. But
You also bought a crossbow
so
and
this is the thing. It's,
a tomahawk.
we know what we're looking for because we do this all over the world. Like every country we go to, we look for knives. So Aaliyah just bought this incredible knife when our trip in Mongolia. She and I went to find a knife shop there and found it. So we know what we're looking for. It's not like we're like, we'll take whatever.
I mean, okay,
from a truck stop.
For context with this, like when we were in Turkey, I don't know how many knives you bought, but then we flew from Turkey to Egypt and we got stuck at the airport.
Because we had, I think, 17
We had like
knives.
17 knives. And not
That's
just knives.
security.
Some of these were like machete-sized knives. Like they're
where is it?
huge knives,
It's
okay?
somewhere. Oh, there it is in my office here on my shelf.
So...
Yeah, so we love this stuff. Anyway, this is one of the things we geek out about, and I want to buy them. I want unique ones that are generally handcrafted by some gentleman somewhere that's been his life's work, and that's why I bought so many in Turkey, because I found this little shop in Istanbul, this old man, and he made them, and they're one of a kind, like phenomenal. But this guy, he was a classic. He himself was a classic, and he was an old guy. And we were looking at him, and so we were sitting there, and Kimball picked out a knife that he had, like, that was unique for him. He grabbed it, Atlas 2. Then I got a hatchet that I wanted for a long time, amazing, and then a crossbow, and then a kitchen knife for Rachel. With
For me, yes,
69 layers of steel. I mean, this thing is...
I can cut the best steaks with this knife.
Oh, man. I told him, I said, hey, like, I eat steak every day. Give me the best knife. And he's like, ooh. And so this one's a Japanese one. I was like, wow. Anyways, he was just so excited. We were standing there. And then all these customers come in. I mean, they're coming and going. They're bringing in, this one guy brought in this whole stack of extremely, extremely expensive knives to this guy so he could sharpen them. Then he comes back later, picks them up. I mean, this guy he himself is the classic of knives. And while we're standing there, this older lady walked in and she looked at us. She's like, buy everything because he won't be here very long. And once he's gone, this is gone. Like once
Wow.
and he's been here for so long. Once he retires, which is probably going to be soon. He's an old guy. That's it. That's the end. That's the end of this classic.
Does he pay her to come in and say that?
No, I don't know. Like she just walked in and she was getting like some scissors sharpened or something. She's like, and she turned to us in English. Everyone's speaking Deutsch, and she's like, buy it, because once he's gone, this is gone. Like this guy's the best. It was special.
And I love that little glimpse into, here's just German life.
Yeah.
Because when you live in a place like that, these people, like, they know each other.
Yeah.
They're coming in, they're sharpening their knives and their scissors. Yeah. Like, they know each other. This is their community. Yeah. And it's just so beautiful to me. I love that.
And it's cool. But the guy he must have dropped off $500-$600 worth of knives. And he probably brings them in every once in a while, every month or two, and go see the old man. Hey, sharpen these up for me. I'll be back tomorrow to get them. And just awesome. And you're right. This is just seeing a little glimpse of life. But anyways, it was a really special experience. It was super awesome. So then we go into Switzerland, that whole saga, and then we cross France.
So okay, back to the saga. You get it fixed. France was fine. No problems
Yeah,
in France.
the rest of
That's-
Switzerland was absolutely stunning.
That's 'cause we love France,
of course.
I
Oh my
guess.
goodness, we love France. So we did all of France and just
And I was
dreamy.
like, oh my gosh, they're making such great time.
Dreamy.
They're going to
cross
back
the border,
fast.
sleep in.
I woke up and you were in Barcelona,
Yep.
and I'm like, this is
Barcelona,
amazing.
so
They're
good.
coming. And then I saw
Yeah.
you leave Valencia, heading across Spain, and then,
Freeway again in the middle of nowhere. Had it happened
yeah.
20 minutes earlier, like everything would have been so much easier and cheaper.
Cheaper.
Yeah.
Because you had to end up getting towed
Yeah,
back
so
to
it was
Valencia.
like a holiday or something. It was remote, so we had to pay special prices for the
Right.
tow truck. Weirdest thing.
And it was a Saturday, no, or
was
Sunday.
Sunday.
It was
It was
Sunday. So
Sunday.
nothing was open except
Yep.
one part store that didn't have
it
Land
was
Rover
it was
parts.
for it was a store for truckers, and it was the only thing that was open. So I'm like, well, tow us there, and we'll go get some tools and see what we can do. And it was just outside the city enough. No Ubers, no taxis, no nothing. Like it took me an hour and a half to find a taxi just to go to the airport.
To
and-
pick up, okay, this
to
is
Valencia.
the next day.
Yeah, because
finally you're like,
here's the kicker. It's 12 minutes. 12 minutes from
Yeah,
where I
it's
was
12 minutes.
to the airport, and I could not get a single ride. There's nothing in that area. I'm like, how do people get around? And everyone's like, I don't know.
yeah,
Like, it
so
was
so it
crazy.
broke down. You had to get towed. You ended up spending the night there at that
Which was
parking lot.
which was a great place, and we took a break, walked over town, went to an old donor shop, Turkish.
Donors, Turkish
Yeah, Turkish
food.
donor, and it was our first hot meal in 6 days, and we were just like, this is the best. Again, you guys, so you don't misunderstand, we're purposely roughing it. We purposely were fasting.
I don't misunderstand.
Because I don't want people to, like, we're just like starving, broke, can't do anything. Or like, we went intentionally roughing it, sleeping in the Defender, camping, just grabbing a few things from the grocery store, but like fasting. I mean, this is going to sound really weird, but we like roughing it. And we were roughing it all right. And then all this happened. So anyways, the car's still in
Okay, so
Valencia.
so you stay the night. So the next morning, you spent some time working on
A
it,
lot
but
of time.
finally
We learned
said
so
to
much.
me,
Took the whole thing apart.
find me a car or a plane ticket or a train or something. We're coming home because
Because I started to feel like Odysseus. And I'm like, I'm not waiting 10 years before I see my wife.
I'm gonna make it home.
I said,
But-
don't marry someone else. I'm
Right.
gonna come back.
But you also believed that at this point, and this is where you are now, at this point, the best option is to take your Defender
Yep.
to somehow tow this thing home
Yep.
so you can, which it's about 9 hours from work.
So, anyways, the whole reason, if you're still listening
I
after
know,
all
to our
that story, rambling
this is
on,
story hour
it's
with
story
Greg
time.
and Rachel
There's,
today.
and I hopefully if you guys hear the story and maybe you can relate to experiences you've had, or maybe you just think we're retarded. Probably both cases are true and incompetent. And the reason we're telling you the story, and we even wanted to talk about it, is because it's true in life. Whatever you want to pursue, there's going to be obstacles. And what I tell my clients every day, I tell somebody this: obstacles are opportunities.
Well,
Every obstacle is an opportunity.
In fact, as there's a book out by Ryan Holiday, who got the quote from Marcus Aurelius,
Marcus Aurelius.
the obstacle is the way.
Yeah. Well,
In
Marcus
fact-
Aurelius said, this is what he wrote in his journals, and he was writing to himself. He just said, we often think the impediment is in the way, but in reality, the impediment is the way.
Exactly. And that is what we're trying to talk about.
Yeah.
That is essentially what we're trying to say. We're trying to point out to people, this is the pattern. This is what happens. If you want to pursue something, especially, and I would often say, I think the bigger it is, the bigger the obstacles. Because every single thing worth having in life comes with a price. Like there's a price tag. And the bigger the thing, the bigger the price tag.
Yep.
And that often comes in the form of impediments and obstacles. That is the price tag you have to pay in order to get the thing you're after. And in this case, we're not just talking about, getting a Defender home. We're talking about this is a dream path that our son wants to follow.
And the skills, mental, emotional,
Plus the physical,
social, physical,
financial.
financial, spiritual, I guess every aspect those skills he gains from this experience are going to be a blessing to every other aspect of his life.
Right. And it's an experience like this that is testing all of those aspects.
Exactly.
You're literally being tested and tried. You're literally being refined and honed and
If you're up for it.
improved so that, like you said, when you achieve the thing you're after, it's not just about having actually achieved it. It's about who you have become
Exactly.
in the process of achieving. But like you were saying, if you're up for it. Because, the other option is, which I think too many people do, is they say, oh my gosh, what a pain, what a hassle. This is not meant to be.
I'm out.
This is just a headache. I'm out. I could very easily see you just saying, you know what, forget it. I'm selling it. I'm leaving it there. I'm going to sell it, and that's it. We're done with this plan, and giving up on it. But you are not doing that, of course. And when I had a little conversation with Kimball this morning, because I haven't seen him since you guys left, he's obviously frustrated. And I said, and he's out of money and all of these things. And I said, well, we've been there. And what you do at this moment is what matters most.
Yep.
And I said, if you give up, then that's it. He's like, oh, I'm not giving up. I'm like, I know. And that's the point.
That's the point.
Is that you still push forward to find solutions. That's what makes the difference.
Yep.
Because if you give up and say, well, I'm never doing that again because that was horrible, that's what makes the difference between those who achieve huge levels of success, or any success sometimes, and those who don't.
Yeah, and those who become successful people.
Right.
It's who you are. So those of you listening, if you're still listening, wow, we love you. We owe you a big hug for listening to that whole ramble. Pick something that is meaningful, that is purpose-filled.
Well, go back to your dumb goal. Pick the dumb goal.
DUMB. The acronym DUMB is demanding. Well, there it is right there. The D. It's demanding.
Yeah, it's demanding of your time, your energy,
We
your
want
attention.
it to be like demanding within certain boundaries,
Right.
and like, can it be demanding
as long as
like
I'm
this?
home for dinner by Friday.
Right, and like I don't mind doing hard things, but I just need to be home by tomorrow evening, right? Demanding, but in unexpected ways. It's unrealistic, it's meaningful, and it's bold. And so pick those things. Make sure they're in alignment with what you want most in life. We often are chasing things that are out of alignment. So make sure it's in alignment, it's bold, and then fully expect obstacles. And fully expect other things to go smoothly and well, like shoom, just went right through. And see if both things, both the obstacles and the cleared pathway, are both God and his universe conspiring in your favor.
Yes. Now, all of that being said, I think we definitely need to do a podcast episode about the times when the obstacles are actually a sign that you're on the wrong path, because we have also been there.
Yep.
And you can think, well, wait, how the heck do you tell the difference?
You just
I
opened
did
up
just
a
open
can of worms right there.
But there is definitely a difference. And so, I would actually love to discuss that and go through that, because we've also faced the times and experiences where we're like, oh my gosh, okay, this
We
is
were
a
going
sign.
down the wrong path. And
we
we
just need to
felt
stop
like
and
God
turn
and his
around.
universe were saying, don't go down this path.
Yeah. So we should definitely talk through that, and because that's another pattern. It is. And you have to learn to have the awareness to tell the difference. Like, we know right now these are just
obstacles.
this is just a part of this process. It's for whatever reason, well, for all the reasons we outlined, like, this is the path to achieving dreams. But there are other times when you get that, and it's a sign that you're pursuing the wrong thing. This is the wrong path.
On this one, though, I want to ask those of you listening, and I just for all of us, for myself, always first and foremost, but for you, is like, how well do you handle disappointment? How well do you handle obstacles? How good are you at solving problems? Mm-hmm. And keeping your mind in a good state? Keeping your emotions in a good state when things don't work out, when they go wrong, when there's failures, when there's mistakes. Because we're still learning, we're not, we're definitely not mechanics. We actually get in and try to figure things out, and we make mistakes. And at one point, I made the situation worse.
Didn't you burn your fingers?
Oh, I totally melted my fingers. And I did something, I'm like, oh, it might be this. And it was the total wrong thing. And I made the whole situation way worse. Although, after we figured out, well, it didn't make any difference. But in the moment, I was like, I made a bad situation worse.
Which is always possible.
Exactly. You're like, how could this get any worse? Well,
It can.
you get upset and see what happens.
Yeah.
But can you keep your mind in it? Can you keep your heart in it? Can you keep your spirit? Can you keep your relationships? I mean, so many relationships get burned.
Well, okay.
And the yelling and seeing insulting, like you ruin relationships. So this relationship.
And I think that I'm glad you brought this up because this is a huge deal. Because I don't know, I wasn't there, but I'm pretty certain that your guys' relationship was not damaged by this experience.
In the slightest. It was strengthened massively.
I don't think there was any arguing, fighting, getting upset or angry at each other. None of that happened. None.
Not even the slightest. There was no anger. There was no yelling or frustration at each other or at the situation even. We handled it. And I've been training myself. You guys, I have an insane temper. Those of you have followed us for a while, you heard about my story. Those of you who are new, like I had an absurd temper. It was madness before I met Rachel. And I got rid of it because I knew it would just destroy things. And so I've been working for years just to master my own emotions. And so in all this frustration, all this extra expense, all the garbage, not a moment.
And when you called me yesterday and we're finally like, okay, we just need to get a car to come home or something, I mean, the one thing I just thought is like, I'm so grateful. So grateful for you that you just can handle all of this with just such a positive attitude and a good example. Because it makes all the difference. It makes even something like this, as frustrating and irritating as it is, it's damaging or destroying to our family. In fact, like you said, it's actually building our family. And so I'm just so thankful that you have that ability and that strength because it's a big deal. It really is.
It does. It makes a massive difference.
Because you called not frustrated, not annoyed, not irritated. You're just like, okay, this is where we're at. And it goes back to that problem solving that you're talking about. And I know for me too, I've grown in this ability because I remember early on in our journeys when things like this would happen. And I, like you said, can things get worse? I used to say that. Why is this happening? Things can't get any worse. This is so horrible. And I've learned to not say that because it can always get worse. So instead, I take all that energy now and I direct it towards, okay, what can we do about it? What are our options? And you're so good at that. You just called like, okay, this is where we're at. Our options are get us home.
At that point, we'd done everything we knew how to do, everything we could. We reached out, and it's like, okay, we have pushed and pushed and pushed. We pushed past limits, and we're stuck. So let's just come out with an escape plan here.
Exactly.
And then we'll recoup and go back.
Yeah, but it's just this simple attitude of what are our options now and what do we do about it? And when I feel like when you put your energy into those types of things rather than blaming or cursing or getting upset or angry, that's where the power lies. That's where the growth happens.
It's so interesting because we can put all of our energy on the problem, which is, I think, what most of us do, and I used to do, or you can put all of your energy on a solution.
Yeah.
Or multiple solutions. And you're right. I mean, it's so easy to put all of your energy on the problem and curse it and be so frustrated and angry and why is this happening? And just all of it. Or you say, okay, it happened. I'm not happy with it. I don't like it. This is really, really miserable and frustrating. It's just wrecking ball on our plans for the week. And I could put all my energy on that. Or I could just say, well, it's done. Like, we don't like it, but it's done. Let's put all of our energy into options for solutions. And man, that's huge. Massive. Okay, as we wrap up, I got to throw out this super exciting teaser. We're coming towards the last quarter of the year. And I know a lot of you want to get into better health. And I am super crazy excited about a new program I'm launching. My whole thing is like be formidable, be a formidable family man. And so,
which I think is exactly what this Odyssey is.
It's an example of
demonstrating.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that is formidable. Like, you're facing obstacles and challenges and problems, but you're able to do it with controlled emotions, clear-headedness, problem solving, and strengthening relationships throughout the entire thing. Like that is the definition of formidable, formidable.
You can say it both ways.
You can say it both
Yep.
ways.
And so, but this specific thing, well, I'm doing 2 things. So get excited. One, actually, it might have been 3 because Rachel and I are working on our new parenting course, and it is awesome. But from me, what I have coming out is formidable fitness and food. I'm going to go into exactly what you can do to get in the best health of your life and stay there. So it's sustainable stuff, exactly what to eat, how much to eat, exactly what exercises to do, how often, when, how long to get lean and fit. So it's formidable fitness and food. And we are going to meet every week live. And I'm going to check in every day. I'm going to tell you exactly what exercise I'm doing, exactly what food I'm eating, and give you a plan for you to get, if it's that extra 10 pounds, that stubborn 10 pounds that just won't come off, or if you're fit but you just want to get a little more lean or a little bit more muscular, or if you need to drop 60 pounds. Wherever you're at on that, we're going to lean into that and do it. So when New Year's rolls around, you're not like, oh, I better set a resolution that I'll forget by February. No, in this
You're
instance,
ahead of the game.
by New Year's, you are going to look and feel amazing and have energy and to spare. That energy and vitality is the most important element there. So that, and then this exciting thing I'm working on for marriage that's going to be absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. For marriage. So anyways, that's coming. So be excited. Watch out for it. Subscribe, get on the email list, message us on social or whatever. Like you're going to want to participate in both of those things. And probably the parenting course too, we're going to release.
Oh yeah. I'm super excited about that. But I think, especially just to close here, we want to emphasize, hopefully we've brought awareness to the
life
patterns.
Sucks, then you die.
No, not that.
No.
It's the opposite of that. Life sucks sometimes.
Yep.
But it's part of the growth process that helps you to become who it is you want to become.
Exactly.
To be able to achieve what it is you want to achieve. I mean, really, that's what we're after. If it was just life sucks and then you die and you just have to deal with it and endure to the end, sorry, that's not a message that I resonate with.
Yep. It's miserable and it's victimism. Sometimes life does suck. It really does. And at that point, we have a choice. We can just say, well, it sucks and later on you'll die. Or you say, life sucks. I'm going to embrace the suck so that I become more.
Yes.
So I'm more capable, more useful. So I'm a better person because of it.
And I think when you have that approach, yeah, we've had a frustrating week, but our life is still amazing.
Yep.
And we still have great relationships, and we still have so many wonderful things. And I think that there's another pattern there, which we have talked about before. It's basically you can choose your challenges or your challenges choose you, kind of. I think those who take this passive approach to life, you still face challenges and obstacles. But if you choose to pursue something, it's almost like, yeah, you're still going to have the obstacles like we've just described, but it's with an intent.
Yeah.
You're choosing them because you're choosing the path you're pursuing.
Yep, I love that.
And that, to me, is a more rewarding path. Like, yeah, I will take those obstacles all day long because they literally are helping me to become the person who can obtain the goal that I'm after.
Exactly. And in this big scheme of things, even on this trip we talked about, Kimball kept saying, he's like, oh, this could be much worse. Like, I mean, we're in Switzerland. Like, this is amazing. We're in Spain or wherever. So horrible things could have happened. We realize that. These are Mickey Mouse problems. Yeah. They really are. And we realize that. And so it's a goofy story that's frustrating just to illustrate some principles that are good reminders for all of us in what we're facing. So love you guys. Thanks for watching and listening. Reach out to us if you have questions or let us know how we can help so you can live and create and design your extraordinary family life. Love you guys. Reach upward.